Breath framework. B, begin where you are. R, reclaim your power. E, excavate your core values. A, allow, not control. T, through, not around. And H, healing. The breath framework, a way of life.
That is so fun. I am so psyched. When the pictures of me at the end come up, it just kills me. Like, I'm like, Annie. Makes me really excited. I just want you to know it's the first time I've used that. My face is red. I'm blushing. We have an awesome show tonight. I'm psyched to be back. I feel like I'm really behind. Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. I feel like I just have been missing from the scene a little bit. I missed a couple days with a migraine, and I'm really happy to be back. As you all know, my kids are still at camp. I'm doing this from my living room. This is not my normal space, so it's a little strange. I got a riveting letter from my daughter today. Hi, Jen. Nice to see you. A riveting letter from my daughter today. Talk about healing. That's what we're talking about today, the breath framework, as I just said in the intro, so you know what it is now. We're on H tonight for healing. But I want to read you this letter. So this letter comes addressed to me with like a peace sign on it. To me, took some time to put a unicorn stamp. And then the letter says this: Dear Mama, love you. Have a good day. Bye. I mean, is that not just talk about the amount of time and energy and love my 9-year-old put, hi, David. Great to see you too, Jen. Put into this letter to write home to me. So I told my ex-husband, because we tell each other when the kids write us letters, and he goes, yeah, she had to write that to get into dinner. So I know that my kid totally wrote that one sentence. Use a stamp for that too. How much are stamps these days? At least they have $1. Yeah, it was totally perfect, Jen. Yeah, I haven't seen them in weeks. She could have told me one sentence of what was going on. But anyway, that's my world. That's my world these days. It's work, occasional sleep, some coffee, and waiting for my kids' letters. So as you can see, who wouldn't wait by the door for a letter like that with all that, again, riveting information. So hi, Jonathan. Great to see you. And you have a profile picture now. For so long, I feel like you didn't. So without further ado, I hope you guys liked the intro. Let me know what you think. DJ Durante made me that intro, and I am psyched about it. Has my own little voiceover that I did. It's very exciting. So to join me tonight is the beautiful and incredibly awesome friend of mine, Dr. Christy. Here she is, bringing her on the scene. Hi.
Thanks for having me. And Annie, the intro was awesome. I loved every second of it, almost as much as the letter.
So I was really, the letter was so my friends kind of got together, and like Mike was like, yeah, take these pictures, do this, use this. So I didn't know anything I didn't really know anything that went into the intro except for my voiceover. So it was a total surprise, and they used my hearts, and so it was nice. It's exciting for me. These are things that, you know, when you're 42 and your kids are away at camp, that you get excited about intros for podcasts.
I was excited about it too. It looked amazing.
And I'm also really digging your one ruffle.
Thanks. Like, I appreciate you saying it, because I really love this shirt, and my mother is really annoyed by the asymmetry.
Although you get annoyed by things too. In fact, I believe there's a song that, like, if it comes on the radio,
you're really bringing that up on your show.
I'm not going to talk about which song. I know better. But I'm going to tell you that, like, it's funny that your mom gets annoyed about something like a shirt. It's like you getting annoyed by a song. But I have to tell you something. So here's the thing that I don't know if you guys know about me. There's no way you guys listening or watching know this about me. But since I'm a little girl, since I was like 3, do you remember when Sesame Street used to break out into song? Like, and then they'd be like acting, and then all of a sudden they'd start dancing in the street and singing.
Yeah.
Like about letter Z or whatever. Like, I started crying then, and like I will still start crying now. Like, for example, Ryan Gosling is my favorite be all end all of all time. Okay. But that movie where he like won Academy Awards and he was dancing in it, I couldn't see it, because if someone breaks out into song, I start to cry.
Interesting.
So like no musicals for me. Les Mis was like a different, but like no musicals, like no breaking out into, if anybody breaks out into song, it's immediately no. So that's a fun Annie fact. I just want everyone here to know that. So I know what you mean about us.
My cousin has a big thing with musicals that she thinks that breaking out into the song in the middle of a conversation is absolutely ridiculous, which in truth I kind of agree with, but I've never gotten to that emotional about it.
Hi, Brad. Great to see you. Brad's such an amazing supporter and such an amazing client and making tremendous strides in everything he's doing. He's like my walking poster man. I call him the poster man of like breath framework and how to do things. So Christy, tell me about what you have going on in your life. Tell me a little bit about your background and tell us about you for people that don't know you.
For sure. So first of all, thanks again for having me tonight. This is going to be a blast. I'm super excited. So for those of you watching who don't know me, I am a chiropractor. So for those who generally think about what chiropractors do, they think musculoskeletal issues, moving bones, doing a lot of cracking, blah, blah, blah. So that's my scope of practice. But for me, I put a very holistic spin on it. And so people come to me for things that they would generally go to a general practitioner for. So acid reflux, digestive issues, headaches, diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol issues, and so on and so forth, right? And so from my standpoint, I actually had a girl come in this week that she wanted a diagnosis. She was very clear. She's like, I'm here because I have some mental stuff going on and I want a diagnosis of whatever it is. And I went through this story and I said, okay, here's my thing with diagnoses. I think diagnosis can be great. You know, the medical profession is amazing at acute crisis care, and they do what they need to do to save people's lives sometimes. Mm-hmm. But there sometimes becomes a problem in labeling and diagnosing things that they just are so eager and quick to put a label on something that they don't actually know how to heal and support that person going through it. So the story I've come up with, not that I've come up with, that I heard through some colleagues years ago was, let's say, Annie, you wake up some morning and there's a donkey in your bathtub. And you go, what the hell? Why is there a donkey in my bathtub? And so you call animal control, you call these people, and they come out and they start measuring it. They start taking its blood, they check its eyes, they do a huge examination. You know, a week later, they come back with the report. The donkey's still in your bathtub, by the way. And they say, it's Bob. We got your answer. It's Bob. You're like, okay, great, get Bob out of my bathtub. The problem is sometimes we are so eager to label and diagnose things that we miss the boat on why it's there in the first place. How did it get in the door? Why is it there? And then how do we remove it is the ultimate goal. And so when people come to me sometimes and they want, you know, well, what do I have? Do I have, you know, am I bipolar, or do I have depression, or do I have anxiety? Yes, maybe to all those things, but I'm concerned with balancing your body so that it can ultimately heal from those things on a natural basis. If that makes sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
I love it. And so you're getting really to the root of things, which is so interesting because I find that so much with what I do with the breath framework and everything that I do working with clients is really getting underneath and excavating, as we say, excavate core values, you know, trying to get to the root of why it's there and then how to get rid of it versus just put a Band-Aid on top. Like I've had clients, so interesting. Everything just works out. What to your point, and not to, you know, Bogart, I want you to talk more about what you're doing and everything you have going on. But sometimes I'll have clients that think that they've reached this healing place more quickly than I want to root them on, and I'm so their biggest fan, but I know that we've just scratched the surface, and I know we've put a Band-Aid on, and that feels really good. And they get on what I call like the pink cloud, you know, and it's like, I'm like good. And like, so what's next? What's like the last, you know, and I'm like, oh, and so we got to get to the root, just like you were talking about, figuring out what Bob, like why Bob's even there or how to get rid of Bob, which was such a great visual, by the way.
Right. And sometimes, quite honestly, I really feel like we're never done. Yeah. I've been in what I do for almost 12 years now. I've been practicing, and I've been treated long before that. And I'm nowhere near done. I'm coming up with things like, really, that's still there? Really, I'm still working on self-love? Are we kidding right now?
No, right. Believe me, I know. I'm like, how long can I be healing? But really, it is an ongoing thing. Healing never stops.
Nope. And
so
something's gone, and then something different can trigger you in a different way and pick up a different route than it did before. And there's still always progress, and you're just peeling back one layer of the onion at a time. And it's still beautiful in the whole process. It doesn't mean it's ever over.
And you know what? Here, wait, there's a couple comments I want to get to. Jen said the most phenomenal holistic. I love you too. You're just such good supporters of each other. And it's just so cute and sweet. And I know how much you respect each other. Carl Sean, my sunshine, said you don't see her from the lovely Christy again. The second time. Wonderful sunshine, Annie. Thank you so much. I'm so happy you're here, Carl Sean. I love when he stops by. Brad agrees with us. I don't know which part he was agreeing with, but he agrees with us. Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. And Brad said, Annie's talking about me right there 3 months ago. Now so different. I mean, one of the many. Hi, TJ. We played your intro. Did you see it? Not like she can respond.
She made that?
Yeah, she made it.
Awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Well
like
done.
I'm so technologically challenged. So she was like, oh yeah, I can make something like that. I'm like, yes. She said, yes, she saw it. So, how did you tell me about how you started, like how you got into this and how you decided, was it from the beginning that you decided to take the holistic route, or were you sort of traditional at first and then made the change? How did that happen?
I was definitely never traditional. So my funny story of how I even got into chiropractic profession in the first place was one of fate, like serendipity, honestly, because so when I hope we have time for this because it's a little bit of a story.
Of course, I can't wait.
So when I was in my undergraduate program, I was majoring in biology and psychology. And back then, people looked at me like I had like 12 heads and were like, why would you put biology and psychology together? That doesn't make any sense. And I was like, to me, it's obvious. There's a body-mind connection in all of us, but okay, whatever. So apparently now this is more mainstream and people get it. Back then when I was in college, not that I'm going to date myself, that wasn't as big of a thing. And so I was like, okay, those were my majors, whatever. I graduated and I started working at Abbott Laboratories right out of school, which was a great gig, good benefits, all that sort of stuff. It wasn't very fulfilling. And I knew, right? Yeah. And so I always knew I wanted to be like more in like a patient-centered kind of approach, prevention over cure. And Abbott, being a big pharmaceutical company, wasn't really my thing. So right as, in fact, actually, I was interviewing at a different division of Abbott in their pharmaceutical division for a job. And they actually asked me, so in 5 years, where do you see yourself? And I said,
not here.
Well, wait for it.
Oh God.
So me being honest, I said, well, honestly, in 5 years, I would really love to see myself more in like a clinical framework where I could really make a difference in people's lives and actually support them from a preventative standpoint so that ultimately they wouldn't need medications to be healthy.
That was the wrong answer.
So that's where I was interviewing, didn't get the job, which was clearly fine.
Right.
And so then it was shortly right before I was getting married, I had started working with this chiropractor part-time that my mom had found doing this, like he was doing like a health talk at the gym that she had gone to at the time. And I had these big eczema patches on my arms and stuff. And she's like, she met him and she's like, Christy, I think that you would really love this guy. Go check him out. Just go meet with him, have coffee, whatever. And so we met. I started working for him part-time because, hey, I'm about to get married. Who doesn't need some extra money, right?
Sure.
And so I started working with him part-time. He shows me the world of what he had done that I never knew existed yet. It was like exactly what I've always wanted in a career and never knew it existed before. And so he was the one who
stumbled upon it. You stumbled upon
100%. It was total. And right as I was making that distinction, like, okay, I'm starting to get interested and this is going to be kind of what I want to pursue, whether it's nutritional, whether it's this or that, I need to go back to school for something. Abbott had a huge layoff and I was one of them. And it was like, later, peace out, see you in your future. And
so like everything kind of just fell into place.
So it was totally perfect. And then the chiropractor I was working with at the time, he did this system called applied kinesiology. So for anybody not familiar with that, what that is, it involves a lot of muscle testing to determine at what area, what angle someone's body needs the most attention, whether it's purely structural balancing, like from a chiropractic standpoint, or nutritional or emotional even. And so he's been teaching me all this as I'm working there and I'm learning so much and I'm loving every second of it. And then he goes, by the way, you don't learn this in school. I said, what? What are you talking about? We don't learn this in school. In school, they teach you the basics to graduate and get a degree. Ultimately, what he was teaching me was all postgraduate stuff I had to do on my own. Of course, that's where the real substance of what we do comes from. So that's kind of the story of how I got into it, but it was through, so applied kinesiology was my way in, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I never knew chiropractic without the weird metaphysical stuff.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this, because I have somebody that I want to put in touch with you that I don't think you know yet, but do you have to come in to see you, or can someone have a Zoom call with you and get some sort of, like, do you do Zoom appointments?
I do Zoom appointments now. It's relatively new, but it's actually going on a year since I've been doing them now.
Okay. You're
And
able to do that.
in complete honesty, I do believe my in-person appointments have a bit more power.
Sure. But if they're not able and they want
you not able to, and it's absolutely doable, yeah.
Okay. Because I have somebody that I was just talking to yesterday who said to me, first of all, Gary, hi, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I said to me, you know, and she's younger. She said, I've been really having a lot of joint pain and I don't know what it's about. And I feel like my back is misaligned, like my spine is misaligned. And I just now put it together that she needs to talk to you. So I'm one off. I'll put you in touch. This is what the question that's like being like coming down to my brain. How has your own healing journey reflected your work journey? Like have they gone side by side, paralleled, or are they different? How's that gone in your life?
Such a beautiful question, Annie. I would generally say they're parallel. Sometimes they do this.
Interweave.
But they're generally going parallel in the same kind of direction. It's like just when I think I've made some strides in practice and those sorts of things, then I have to work on something personally. And then when personal stuff is getting more balanced, then I have to work on business and those sorts of things again. And for me, at least, I mean, I know you've got kids, I've got 3 boys. It's all about balance for me. It's all about trying to juggle all the balls at the same time. And let's face it, we're human. And so sometimes the balls drop and you got to pick them up and keep juggling. So it's interesting that you asked that question, because that for me is one of the things that I'm constantly working with, is just my own personal development in who I am and who I'm growing into being, and professionally working on that side of things, being a mom, and just all of it, you know?
Balance is really, really, really hard for me. It's just not something that I'm good at. It's something I'm constantly working on. Just full transparency, it's not my thing. I am such an gas to the, pedal to the metal, like just go do it and like go and just burn myself out. And I teach and coach people daily on how not to do this. And I have to apply it to my life. And it is a struggle for me. What's the easiest part of your healing journey, and what's the most difficult? What's your biggest struggle in your healing journey?
What a good question. Well, I mean, I can share a little bit of a story here. One of the things that I struggled with a lot was I had some weight issues, and I'm putting that in past tense now. I love that. Actually. Yeah. So even as a kid, I was never like a skinny person, but I never really felt like I was fat growing up. It just was in my own head. But as I had kids and my body changed, and hormonally, I had some really big thyroid challenges in the last, especially like it came to a culmination point last year where anybody watching who has any medical background whatsoever, my TSH was at 15, if that gives any perspective. It was bad. Let's just say normal range for where I would be at my time of life would be between 1 and 2. Mine was at 15. Not great. Even me, from a holistic perspective, I was like, okay, I'm asking some colleagues, is it time for Synthroid? Is it just time for me to give up the holistic route and just do the medication thing? And we decided to give it one more go with a few more different supplements and some really intense work. And now in the last year, I've lost 50 pounds without doing anything virtually different in my workouts or diet. But I'm now doing it with a functioning thyroid. And the way that it happened was, it was just the right time, Annie. It was just one of those things, like serendipitously in a way, like the work that I was doing, the supplements that I was doing, the healing, emotional, and energetic, spiritual connecting that I was doing to get over some really big, deep things that were kind of in my physiology, in my thyroid, in all those areas. I had to get through all of that, through some different energy work, and then everything opened up.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes things just have to fall into the right place, and people have to be ready at the right time. It's like the right energy, the right healing, and your readiness has to all simultaneously collide at the same time. Sometimes, not all the time, of course, for people, but like sometimes you hit that jackpot and then suddenly we make progress. So that was what was big for me. I don't remember the rest of your question. I'm like, I'm going on a tangent.
What the hell did you even ask me? No, I was asking about what's the easiest part of your struggle? Like the easiest thing that you tackled, and then that was obviously really difficult. And congratulations on losing the weight and getting on track and becoming more aligned. That's beautiful.
Yes. So that was one of the hardest things I literally struggled with. Like the thyroid thing was ever since my first was born. It was all over the place. And then every time I would have a baby, it would drop again. And it was this whole mess.
Mm.
I'm past that now. Easiest thing. Is there really anything easy about healing?
No,
that's kind of a loaded question. I guess I mean, the one easier thing I could say is anything diet, exercise related. That tends to come a bit more naturally to me, that like, I know what to do and
you know what you have to do.
And the regimen, you just do it. And for me, I had always been a little bit more all or nothing. Actually, this has shifted quite a bit for me recently. I used to be a very all or nothing, like with diet. I would either be on a program where I couldn't cheat, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do that. And in the last year or so, I've really shifted that to, you know what? I'm not being all or nothing anything. I'm just living, and I'm just going to eat well and do the right thing that's, I know, good for my body. And the rest of the time, just live and be human. And also, I think making that switch flip and just being human in that really freed up a lot of crap, quite honestly. Yeah. So that also, I really believe, freed up some of the weight that wasn't going away.
I know we're talking about healing tonight. Karina, that's who I wanted you to. Do you know Karina?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I want to put you two in touch, but we'll talk about that later.
Hi, Karina. Nice to meet you.
Karina, this is Dr. Christy, and I want you guys to talk. Brad, each day as I recognize when I'm being triggered, I allow and stay present. So funny that he just said that. So I was going to say to you, how much do you think allowing belongs into your story, like falls into your story? Because I know we're talking about healing, but like allow is A in breath framework, and it's such a big part, and definitely my hardest letter.
Yeah, it's a big letter. We just had this conversation. I don't know if Jen is still watching because I can't see all the people watching on here, but I just had this conversation with her this week about me being in a place of do, like you described before, like, oh, and you'll see something else later. I just had a book come out. And so in that, it's like, okay, I got to do this. And it's not a should, it's not a have to. It's all these things I really want to do because I'm really excited and passionate about it. And it's still a do, get this done, constantly go. And she just had to remind me, just be.
Be. Oh my God, that's really hard for me too.
I don't remember how to do that. And, you know, I actually just had a treatment with a colleague of mine yesterday. And then through some of the other things that Jen and I talked about, I was like, okay, I can be. I get back into my center, and now I feel like I'm being again. And I'm like, okay, if that doesn't get done right now, it's fine. I'll be fine. And it'll get done. And it's less pressure. I really feel like there's so much of that. Hi, thanks for still being here. Yes. So that's sometimes a big challenge for me too. And it's so critical.
To your point, how do you get back to center? Because I was just talking to clients this week about that, and how they're like, Annie, like, what do you mean when you say that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, for me, it's getting treated. And that's a really lame answer because it's not giving anybody anything to go off of. But for me, it's really so important to me to get treated and healing work done by a colleague of mine, so I can get out of my own head and just let them help and support and guide my body, because I sometimes have a hard time working only on myself because I can't get them out of my own way. Especially if I'm in a place of doing and not being, I can't tell myself to do that. And so I need an outside influence, energetically speaking, to help move that forward. There's dozens of other things I do on a regular basis that are helpful to do that, like grounding exercises, meditation, doing walks, gratitude. Like there's bunches of things that we can do, but depending on what place you're in, if you're really in that crazy place, like I really kind of was a couple of days ago, it's really hard to just do those things and have it shift stuff, I feel like.
And what's so great too is you have an accountability partner like in Jen, and you guys have that. And I know what that's like to have that, where it's like somebody can say, you're just going and you need to just be, and you don't take that person. You're like, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
I am, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just find this whole, I have to tell you, so my story of it's allowing through surrendering your control. Yes. Many people think that surrender is such a weak word, and it's actually such strength it takes to surrender and turn over your will, and just be able to say, you know what, I'm turning it over. I don't have control over this anymore, and I'm just going to let go and allow. But on another topic, I wanted to tell you that when I first met you, I was in such a crazy place, and you were such a grounding, sweet, and warm person and force in my life. I'll never forget. I know exactly where I was sitting upstairs. My desk was against the wall differently, and I remember meeting you and afterwards being like, oh my God. I remember you were like, Annie, your heart feels heavy right now. And I was like, yes, it does. Like, I was like a maniac that night. And it was just a lot emotionally, personally going on. And you were such a beautiful grounding force that's the effect you have on people, just so you know. Like, that's what you were to me that night.
That means the world to me, Annie. Thank you so much for saying that. And I really feel like, we don't have a clue what effect we have on other people. I mean, that's just a brilliant reminder to always just stay grounded and love ourselves through everything, because we have no idea what impact we're having on people. We have those rough days where we're not feeling like we're doing enough or this or that. There's people that we've had an impact on that I had no idea about that story, that I had that impact on you. So thank you.
You really did. I remember we did a late call because we wanted to do it like after work, and like
I was getting late.
It was like 7:30, like one of those calls, and I was like, and we got on a call, and you were just such a, like, I needed you that night. Like, I needed you, and you were so there, and we were seriously seeing each other for the first time. Like, we were just, it was the first Zoom call, first meeting, and I'll never forget that. I mean, I remember like just exactly. So it's so funny that you're on for my healing, because you were so healing for me that night. When I needed somebody, you weren't like, this is weird or you're crazy, which you could have said both, but you were like, you're going to be okay. Your heart. What did you say to me? You said, your heart is right here. I feel it. And you said it weighs like 1,000 pounds right now. And I was like, how does she know that? And that's exactly how I just felt like so taken care of. It was just really, really nice. And I never got to tell you that story. And I'm glad I'm here able to tell you.
Well, thank you. I feel so warm and fuzzy now.
I didn't even think to myself, like, what are we going to talk about? I just thought, just now, I'm like, I have to share with her, like, even if you remembered every detail, I wanted you to know the effect that it had on me when you were really there that night. And we just were getting to know each other and just meeting. And, it was just really, it was very, talk about serendipity and where you needed to be at the right time. And you were very warm and loving. So I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. Happy to be there anytime.
Thank you. Tell me about what you have going on. I know there's something special that you showed for one quick second. Tell me.
Well, I also wrote a note because I can't remember if you said it first or if it was one of the comments that somebody shared about the surrender. It's a perfect segue into my book, because what's all about surrender? Childbirth. Right?
Oh, wow. I don't know what to talk about.
I'm sorry. I hear the word surrender. My brain immediately goes to childbirth, because I had 3 very, very different birth experiences with my kids. And my first one didn't do any surrendering whatsoever. And ended up with a lot more interventions than I wanted. And it was with the second one that I was like, okay, just it is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it. Surrender completely to the process. And he was born in the car. Very, very different.
Wow. 2 different experiences. What about the third?
Yeah. Third was a home birth, because after the first crazy experience and then the second
car,
really, we're just not going anywhere this time. It's just not worth it. So, but I share all those stories in my book. So this is just a copy, or like a printout of what it's going to look like. It literally just got published a couple days ago.
That is Mazel Tov. That's so exciting.
I'm really excited. It was a very surreal experience. And so it's driven towards the newly postpartum mother who is just trying to figure out who she is in this new process. Like, holy cow, there's all these hormones dovetailing. There's now this new little human being that I'm fully responsible for their well-being, while trying to take care of myself in the process, trying to figure out if we breastfeed or what is happening all here.
No sleep.
It's a lot. Oh yeah. And your sleep
recovering from pain.
Right. And so it's a big shift for that mother. And then on top of it, you actually have to make sure that you're taking care of this new little human that you created, and doing so in the best possible way. And I feel like I tried to bring through with this is, I'm a human. I'm a mom too. I went through all the crap and did a bunch of stuff, quote unquote, wrong. And I get it from that perspective. And yet I also have the physician perspective to know, like, thank God I had some of that background, because I didn't have to only rely on Dr. Google to guide my decisions when trying to raise the kids. And especially like, they have a fever. What should I do? Oh, thank God I have homeopathy and I know that. But not everybody knows that. And not everybody knows that there's other ways than Advil or this or that. So
my gratitude alarm went off while you're talking about this, by the way, because I'm grateful.
I love it.
So go ahead. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're totally good. But yeah, that's kind of what it's about. It's navigating through that first year or so of life, postpartum, and like in the deer in the headlights. What are we doing now?
I mean, on top of that, your postpartum, on top of that, like I had really bad postpartum, not with my son, but my daughter, where like I had, thoughts of driving into a brick wall. Like I remember thinking to myself, it would be great. Like I had crazy, I don't want to die, but like if I could get seriously injured, like just so I could have a break, like that kind of crazy thinking. Postpartum got me. And I remember having they were 26 months apart. And I remember being like, wait a minute, wait. So I have this like newborn and then I have this guy too. Like, are you guys kidding? Not a good time.
Yeah, it's rough. I had patients tell me, or people tell me before, just like you did, that's like, I don't want to die, but I just want something else as a break. I actually had one person tell me that they wish that they could like commit a crime just so they could go to jail for a night.
For a break. So crazy.
So many things. And it was something, I actually shared this on the show I was on earlier with Dorothy today, that one of the stories I share is that I didn't even know I had a postpartum depression thing with my first until 2 years later. It was
what do you mean? Explain this to me. What do you mean?
I didn't realize, once again, we go back to these diagnoses. I didn't know I probably had a diagnosable postpartum depression with my first. But it didn't occur to me and I didn't click that, holy cow, that's probably what I'm going through here, until he was almost 2 years old. And so I remember it very vividly. I was just like sitting in my living room and I was having a conversation with my husband on how unhappy I was. And I just didn't feel right in my body. And wasn't doing anything I wanted. And I was in this moment. And then I paused and was like, do I have postpartum depression 2 years later? And then I went back through and it was like, yeah, right after he was born, like 4 months later was my birthday. Couldn't care less about my birthday. Wasn't excited about it. It's another day. Didn't like nothing about me and who I was mattered. And
wow, you were numb. You were numb.
Completely numb. And it was like one thing at a time, was just very clearly eliminating myself from the equation of life. And I say that right now and I get like choked up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy way to say it. And I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. So and it was really rough. And so if I could, even just with the book, if I can like just help support one woman going through that, to know A, she's not alone, and B, there's other ways to move through and heal through it, that's what I want to do.
You mentioned something. Brad said this, and then I have a point about what I feel like everybody's doing. My daughter just had her first. What can I do to be present and support her and my son-in-law and look for the signs of postpartum?
Good question. Ask her questions and real questions. Like I was smart. And, when I would go to my postpartum midwife appointments, they'd have me take the little screening. Are you this? Are you that? And I would rationalize the whole thing in my head going, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm sad sometimes, but it's normal, whatever. And we can kind of screw through those examinations just to get through it. So really be present in asking how she's really doing, and just being aware of like how she looks in her body. Is she looking frazzled? Does she look super tired? How balanced she is emotionally. Like there's so many little things, but it's really hard. Like I said, I didn't even recognize it in myself until 2 years later.
Yeah.
So I think it's just in opening up the conversations and holding space and being there. What do you need? When someone has a baby, I write this in the book, that like when someone has a baby, we're flooded with people that want to help and support. And really they want to be there and see the baby and hold the baby. And really just asking maybe like, what do you need? What honestly can I do right now?
And here's another thing. And this was so big in my life, like not feeling like you have to have it all together. Like I want, people needed to say to me, or I wished they had said to me, it's okay that this is overwhelming. You don't have to know exactly what you're doing. And you have 26-month-old and a newborn, like, it's okay. And I just remember just like having all these thoughts and then being so hard on myself and saying, I have these two beautiful, healthy children. What is wrong with me? Why am I unhappy? And just like, I think we're getting a little bit better with the stigma with mental health, but not enough. I want people to understand that it's okay to feel like that, and that we can get the right services and get you taken care of, and that you're not weak.
Exactly. I had the experience, and once again, this is something I shared in the book as well, that because of the birth experience I had with my first, hi Bill, I had a lot of grief and processing to do through that experience. And the line is always, well, as long as you and baby are healthy. And yes, of course, without a doubt, 100% is always about making sure that you and baby are healthy, bottom line. And there's sometimes more to it than that. Like you have a disempowering birth experience. You have some birth trauma, like you have a C-section instead of, a magical birth that you had planned on the whole time. Like that hurts, And I actually had gone to a therapist within the first few months of having my oldest son. And I had breast milk supply issues. So my birth didn't go as planned, failure number 12 throughout the whole process of that. And then my thyroid was off and my breast milk supply wasn't there. And so for me, it was like check, failure. And I went into the therapist and she said, you're upset because you needed an epidural for your labor. You're upset because you have to give some formula or supplement your child's feeds. It's really not a big deal. Like, as long as you both are healthy, it's really okay. And I felt like completely dismissed. My emotions were totally non-validated. And it was just like one more thing, like, okay, I just have to suck it up and deal with it.
Not only did you fail on these things, but you failed the way you thought about it too.
Right.
So like the way you're feeling is a failure too. Great. Thanks so much. And I mean, she didn't mean it like that, but it's like,
she absolutely meant well, just to try and see, like, we're all moms here. We get it. It's all a big mess and you're okay. But in the state that I was in that postpartum fog of not knowing who I was anymore, that was not the most helpful thing I could have heard.
Yeah.
And I don't blame that. It was just one more thing that I was trying to work through.
No, of course. And that was a long, and if anybody's watching and feeling like, they've had some of these struggles, like, look at Dr. Christy now. Like, look how far you've come. Like, do you ever stop and really, truly, I don't think you do.
No, I don't.
Do you ever stop and like, be honest. I don't think you're like me. Like, God forbid we stop and say, like, holy shit, look at where we've come from. That is important to do. So let's do that for a minute.
Okay. I try sometimes.
Now, right now, I want you to think about all those things we were just talking about and how far you have come in your healing journey. And what a beautiful place you're in right now. That's amazing. Breathe it in, girl. That's amazing. And you look so healthy and sparkly and glowing, and like you're doing all these things. You just wrote a damn book and you have 3 boys and a husband and this career, and you're doing it. Not to say that we don't have struggles, right? Like, everybody has struggles. We have every day we're working on things, and we're constantly evolving and learning and growing. And I love that part of life. I never want to be done because then I'm dead.
Exactly.
So, but I think that I hope that anybody watching the replay says to themselves, God, I know we're hard on ourselves and we don't ever recognize our progress. Like, just to think about a year ago to now, think about our conversation when we talked and where I've come from. Cause I remember what was going on. It was not a happy time for me. And just to think about how I've grown and like what we've created over this time and everything that's happening in life right now, it's like, life is good.
Yeah, and that's all so beautifully said, and I'm so glad you did that. Hi, Michael. I feel like it's one of those things that as people who are really focused and educated and ambitious and dedicated towards moving forward in life, we have this tendency to look at what's next or what we're working towards instead of pausing once in a while and looking at all we've done. And sometimes that's just as important or more important to really stop and see all that we can acknowledge ourselves for instead of all the things that we still have yet to do.
The best way that I get centered, because God knows I need it, and the way that to see your progress is journaling. For me, it's an incredible, I tell my clients, like when they first start out and they're like, I don't want to journal. I'm like, all right, Give me 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. You can spare 10 minutes. And most of them, I would say 99.9% agree with me. Okay, I can do 5 minutes in the morning. And it's such an amazing, just at the very least, like where you can look back and say, wow, that's where I was 2 weeks ago. That's where I was 2 months ago. Like, look at the progress I've made. And when you're on this, I thought you were either really thinking hard or you were frozen. Like, this was, you were like, and I was like, she's really, really thinking about that one. I think that is a good way to sort of see where you are and see your progress. Because if I look at writing of mine from a year ago, it's like,
yeah, it's really interesting that you said that, because so we talked about my healing journey and various things earlier. When I look back years ago, it's astronomical. Like, whoa, how would I have said something like that to myself? Like, there's certain things that are like mind blowing. Thank goodness I'm not there anymore. But then recently I looked back to something I'd written 6 months ago, and I was like, I can't believe that I'm saying some of the same crap now that I'm saying 6 months ago. And it was also eye opening to me in that sense that I was like, nope, I want to rip those pages out of the journal and be done with it and move forward. I'm not going back anymore. And so sometimes for me, and it just kind of depends. And I tell patients this frequently too. Journaling can be different for everybody. Sometimes it can be a letter to somebody that you love or care about or need to get some things off your chest about, and then you burn it, or then you send it, or then it's just yours to keep and process through it. But like, I find it can be really cathartic and healing to write, however it looks, and then burn it afterwards and
some people do that. Yeah.
It kind of depends on what it is and where it's going.
Where can people get your book?
So it is on Amazon now. We can probably put the link in later if people are interested.
Sure.
And then also my website is ChristyMatusiakDC.com. And there's a little shop tab that you can get it off there as well.
Awesome. I want people to be able to go check it out and give you good ratings and get your book, because it looks so amazing. It really looks amazing. I mean, even I've had my babies and I'm done with that, but even like, I feel like you could still learn a lot from what you're teaching. And
I know. Well, I mean, ultimately, I feel like it's going to end up being a series, because let's face it, it's called Coordinating the Chaos for a reason. And let's face it, the chaos doesn't stop when they're a year and a half old. It just magnifies and gets a little different.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, like, the first few chapters, I feel like are going to be very, very similar, just slightly different in future versions, because the first ones are sharing some of my own experience and just like rehashing like how life is during those phases. And then one of the most important ones is about self-care and just like realizing we can't remove ourselves from the equation of life when we become a mother. Like, just suddenly that title then means you don't matter anymore. No, it means you matter more, because you're responsible for another human being. And so if you don't have your shit together, you can't help and support another human being.
It's so interesting that you bring that up. And I was going to wrap the show, but I have one quick story just to tell you. Is that, when my kids are away at camp all summer. They're at overnight camp for 7 weeks.
Wow.
And I know everybody's like, freedom. I was like, at first I was like that too. And then they left and I was like, I had like a minor breakdown and I was smelling their clothes and I was like in their rooms, like, and what I realized was, besides putting myself completely and utterly into work and growing this business, I was just mom. Like, I was mom. There was no other Annie. There was not a space for that anymore. And I realized that when they went away, like, you have to have a space for you, because how can I be the best to them if I'm not the best to me, right? And so I started to get a little bit better at creating my own space and my personal freedom and finding that, I mean, I miss them. I do miss them. But I mean, there have been some nights when I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I don't have to like pick them up, drop them off, have them here, have them there. But it's been eye-opening as far as my personal freedom goes.
Yeah, and then you get letters like that make it all worth it.
Well, right, and I don't even want to read you one of my sons that told me some kid crapped on the floor. I can't even go. You have 3 boys, so nothing will surprise you. Like, no, but like the letters that I get, I mean, it's just like, did you really just send me this? Like, I love you to death, but one sentence that got a stamp. So anyway, I mean, God, the other one, the one before that said, I miss Randall, love you, bye. Like, these are the letters I'm getting. But anyway, I mean, I'm thankful that, in order to go to dinner, they send me. But what I'm realizing is like, I'm more than that. I'm not just CEO. I'm not just mom. I'm so much more, and I have to give myself credit for that. And like we were talking about earlier, like I'm not the best at that. So I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Someone here wants me to pay attention to this comment. Hold on. Okay. So hello, I need attention, Miss Christy. I want to suggest one genuine global step in respect for each woman.
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay. I add that keeping respect for every mother in my mind, same point, is already forwarded to various government offices, including UN and Government of India, already gave official consent without date of implementation. I wish you both give attention for the same. I don't really understand totally.
I'm not sure I do either.
So I wanted you to feel like we heard you.
Yeah.
And we put your comment up, but you said, is there a possibility of attending my comment? So I'm really trying to understand. I'm just not, I'm missing.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand either. I'd be, if she's available offline, I'd be happy to have more of a conversation to get more details. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. I don't want you to think we weren't ignoring you at all. I just am not really totally exactly sure. But Dr. Christy, I wanted to say thank you for being here, beautiful, wonderful woman. And I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was such a beautiful time. It was, yeah, I can't believe 45 minutes went by so quickly.
I'm so happy that we got to share space and you got to tell about your book and, have people, we'll put the links in and all that good stuff. And I wish you the best of luck with it. And let's, of course, stay in touch.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on the show and everything. It's been fantastic. Is there going to be a closing?
I don't have an outro, but should I play that same thing again? I think I will. All right, I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to hit, you have to be like real snazzy with the timing. All right, let's try it. All right. Peace, everybody.
Have a great one. Thank you.
Breath framework. B, begin where you are. R, reclaim your power. E, excavate your core values. A, allow, not control. T, through, not around. And H, healing. The breath framework, a way of life.